Hello, Crime Salad listeners. It's your host, Ashley. Welcome to the second episode of Side Salad. In these special bonus episodes, I cover a few shocking new true crime stories that are developing as we speak. And to access these episodes each week, make sure that you subscribe on Apple Premium or Patreon. Otherwise, you'll get to join me on Side Salad once a month. Now, let's run through some of the most unbelievable crime stories in the headlines this week. So let's start off with a story that has dominated headlines over the past few weeks. According to newly released court documents, 2 girls murdered in 2017 may have been part of a ritualistic sacrifice. In 2017, 13-year-old Abigail Williams and 14-year-old Liberty German were murdered in Delphi, Indiana. The girls were murdered after being dropped off at a hiking trail for a nature walk. And the next day, their bodies were found in a wooded area by the trail. A man named Richard Allen was charged in 2022 with their murders, but his attorneys claim that police are hiding key evidence and that they need to continue the investigation. This month, Allen's lawyers argued that Allen was innocent and that instead the murder had been carried out by white nationalists practicing an ancient Norse religion. Defense attorneys released a 136-page memorandum that claimed there was absolutely nothing that linked Richard Allen to the deaths of Abigail and Liberty. They argued that police found the bodies moved and staged, and on top of that, detectives had connected symbols made of sticks, tree branches, and the victim's blood to a ritualistic sacrifice. The ruins that they had discovered there were often used by an Odinist cult of white nationalists. The defense argues that investigators ignored and omitted this evidence and instead fabricated a case against their client, Richard Allen. Allen's trial date is set for January 8th, 2024, and we will be sure to update you then. Over the past month, victims of a Doomsday cult have come forward with harrowing stories of abuse. The young girls claim that leaders of a cult forced children into marriage and engaged in sexual violence. The group called Omega de Solanara has gained 3,500 members, including 1,500 children. The cult leader, J. Renz B. Quilerio, claims to be the reincarnation of Jesus and is referred to as the Messiah by his followers. According to Daily Mail, the group actually began as a civic organization, but in 2017 it was renamed and transformed into a quasi-religious cult. In 2019, Quilerio secured control of his members even further by claiming that a recent earthquake was the beginning of the end. He said that the apocalypse was imminent, and the only way to be saved was to leave their homes and join him in the mountains of Socorro. If they refused, Quilerio said that they would burn in hell. This September, a young teen named Chloe testified that Quilerio forced her to marry a 21-year-old man when she was only 13 years old. She begged her parents to end the marriage, but her parents had been so brainwashed by Quilerio that they refused to help their daughter. Save the Children, an organization that advocates for the rights and safety of children, has pressured the Filipino government to free the 1,500 children held captive by Quilerio's cult. Thankfully, the cult is now being discussed in the Philippine Senate, where several senators urged authorities to take action. Quilerio has refuted all claims made against him and alleges that the girls were making up their stories of abuse. All right, now let's dive into a lighter story that involves a high-speed chase with a stolen ambulance. On September 19, 2023, in Henry County, Alabama, 58-year-old Andrea Bryant stole an ambulance and took the vehicle on a 50-mile joyride. Police were notified of the stolen ambulance around 1 o'clock in the morning while it was parked at a Waffle House. They then located the emergency vehicle driving south on Interstate 75. Deputies attempted to pull the ambulance over, but Bryant would not give up without a fight. Bryant allegedly sped down the interstate at almost 90 miles per hour to escape law enforcement. Police were then forced to set up stop sticks to deflate the tires of the ambulance, but even after deflating 2 tires, Bryant drove for another mile before surrendering the vehicle. Allegedly, after the vehicle was disabled, she then jumped out of the ambulance and ran from officers by foot. Shortly after she was apprehended and taken into custody, Bryant is now charged with attempting to elude speeding and failure to maintain lane in Monroe County. She also faces an additional charge of stealing the ambulance in Henry County. Now, you might think that an ambulance would be an awful getaway car with its sirens and distinct markings. It's not the stealthiest vehicle out there, but a wanted fugitive would disagree. Just one day after Bryant's joyride that we were just talking about on Wednesday, September 20th, 2023, a Florida man stole an ambulance from a Taco Bell parking lot. Allegedly, the fugitive was wanted for violating his probation in Florida, and he attempted to drive to the border in the stolen vehicle. The man was caught on surveillance cameras crashing into the Taco Bell before fleeing the scene. However, his road trip in the emergency vehicle didn't last long. He was arrested only a mile and a half away from the Taco Bell where he pulled the bizarre stunt. Since his joyride, the man has been charged with theft of property, attempting to elude, and leaving the scene of an accident. Previously, the man had served 3 years for assaulting a law enforcement officer and 2 other sentences for aggravated battery, child neglect, and grand theft. And that completes our little side salad. Thank you so much for listening. And if we've learned anything from this episode, it's that if you're an EMT, make sure you lock up your ambulance before you stop for a bite to eat, because people are apparently on the lookout to take your ambulance for a joyride. And if you have a little story in your area that has happened that you would like to share, go ahead and send it in our Instagram messages or email us at crimesaladpodcast@gmail.com, because we're always looking for some fresh new crime salad stories. All right, we will see you next week.